background, who's moderating this, who's hosting this webinar and doing our technical support. So appreciate you there, Sarah, very much. And thank you everybody for joining us today. We're going to move forward to our agenda. So thank you. This is a live webinar, and I really appreciate your interest and your time for joining us. This webinar will be recorded and available to anybody who's registered for this webinar subsequently, and available through our website. I'm your host today and moderator, Tawny Collin. I am the president and co-founder for NACTR. I also do work for Salvation Army as business development and sustainability director in Canada. This free webinar is brought to you today by NACTR and graciously hosted, as I mentioned, by Salvation Army and Sarah Hicks in the background. So thank you to them. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands of which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. So today's webinar is going to be focusing on textile diversion resources for municipalities. And this slide deck is loaded with a lot of information. We know that some people just like to receive the slide deck in the future, also along with the webinar recordings. So forgive us if it's a little text heavy, but in that context, we do think it's what people like to see. And we hope that you will find it a useful reference in the future. There will be time for a Q&A at the end. We encourage you to drop any questions along the way into the chat, and we'll do our best to address them. Sarah will bring those forward as appropriate, and we'll hopefully answer all the questions that you might have for us today. So this slide deck, as mentioned, the webinar recording will be available in a few days. And yeah, let's get into it. So as discussed, my name is Tawny, and today I have with me as my guest speaker, my co-partner in crime, Charlotte Genge, who is our project manager at NACTR. She's been working with us for over 2 years, and delighted to have her join us today to help talk about all of this work that we're going to be discussing further. It's been a couple of really neat projects, and it's been great to have some other people on our team who are as engaged as I am and excited to share these resources. So thank you, Charlotte, for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
So just want to talk briefly about NACTR. So NACTR is an organization, if you're not aware, that focuses on supporting its members. And the members here you see listed their logos on the screen. And we are in support of increasing their donations and helping them grow their social impact in communities across Canada. Donating clothing and household goods to charities not only supports social enterprise and local communities, but it also has huge environmental impact, and I'm sure you all know this, through the life extension of goods and giving goods the best chance at a second life right here in Canada. That's what we all do. Charities play a crucial role in supporting and addressing social, economic, and environmental issues. We fill the gaps in public services, supporting vulnerable populations, providing clothing, system support, disaster relief, emergency response, and a host of other social services. Charities in Canada complement government efforts in bringing essential resources, expertise, and passion to address social challenges and improve the well-being of Canadians. Their presence and activities contribute significantly in building a compassionate, inclusive, and thriving nation. So thank you to all of our member charities. I'm not going to go into detail on some of these heights here because we do want to make sure that the focus of our webinar is sharing with municipalities. Just wanted to point out a number of the projects that we've been working on in the last 2 years within NACTR. We've been engaged in a number of areas in the hopes to increase diversion and have those goods go to the hands of our members. A few of them are listed here. And at the very bottom of the list there, you'll see expanded resource for municipalities. So let's dig into it.
Hi, everyone. So targeting textile diversion with local charities and with NACTR members helps everybody in a lot of ways. And obviously, first and foremost is environmentally. It's diverting textiles from landfills, and it helps municipalities meet their goals. There's also a cost savings and efficiency introduced by doing this. So Municipalities save money by reducing their landfill needs and freeing up space through these programs. And of course, community engagement, which is so important, engaging with the people, the citizens, educating them, using campaigns, having donation drives, and just spreading the word of where and how to donate is all very helpful. So now for the point of today, we're going to dive into some of the municipal resources that we've pulled together this past year, which we're really proud of. And we're going to showcase what other cities are doing, other municipalities, and we're going to share that knowledge to help guide your municipality and find a program that works for you in your short and long-term planning. So, you can take elements of the recipe and mix it up and make something that works where you are.
Thanks, Charlotte. Just before you go to the next slide, I did also want to share with the group, I think we were kind of remiss to include it, that all of these resources were collected over a number of months, working right across Canada, looking to see what the best practices were. We've highlighted those, brought them to you today, and part of this was actually in support and with funding from Environment Climate Change Canada, recognizing that they wanted to see an increase in these areas as well. So we acknowledge that they helped us to gather all this information, so we were able to bring it to you today. Sorry, just wanted to add that in. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Great point. Thanks for adding that. So I'm going to get going on kind of what we started with at the beginning of the project. And we wanted to touch on 3 textile diversion levers where municipalities in particular can make a really sizable impact. So those are bylaws, so as they're related to bin collection specifically, requests for proposals, so RFPs, and procurement, and then of course, master solid waste management planning, as we've noted them as MSWs. Just starting with bin collection, while bin collection only makes up about 20% of donations received by NACTR members, we did feel it was important to include because of the immense opportunity it presents as a collection vehicle. Bins are convenient and accessible for the public, but they also present challenges, especially related to illegal dumping and obviously the opportunity for bad actors. Bylaws can help reduce barriers to bin collection. Some municipalities are in fact addressing this. The city of Markham has restricted donation bin ownership and placement exclusively to charitable collectors. So that's huge. It also requires that they meet a brand standard to easily identify and remove non-compliant bins. So that's reducing bad actors. They also have banned textiles at the curb, so they use a clear bag collection system. And then they really strictly enforce these requirements as well. They've even gone as far as expanding bin sites for members and introducing technology like sensors to help with servicing the bins and keeping it efficient. And then they provide support to charities when illegal dumping has actually occurred. So they're addressing a lot of the barriers with this collection method, and all of that coupled with promotion, education for residents to understand what to donate and where, like I mentioned, is really impactful. It's also worth noting that regulating the bins encourages accuracy with respect to the data collection, so the numbers of tonnage diverted and that kind of thing, because there's actually transparency into everything collected from bins, and there's none of those external third parties or bad actors at play. So that's really meaningful. Just moving on to RFPs. They generally represent a barrier for charities. So as a formal RFP process, especially when there's no money changing hands, it's onerous. And where possible, we actually recommend just directly collaborating with a NACTR member. However, there are some best practices that will remove barriers for charities so that they can bid on these types of jobs. And we recommend that municipalities actually require respondents, bidders, to be a member of NACTR or at least to be a charitable or nonprofit organization. We also recommend that municipalities not impose any kind of payment to participate, or they prohibit any financial transactions resulting from the bid or contract. Another great thing to consider is to allow charities to respond collectively to RFPs. This is a big one, actually, because there are a lot of smaller charities out there operating doing textile diversion and collection. So this will help those smaller charities participate in those bids. And then we also recommend allowing a longer timeline. So, those short turnaround times, they're not conducive to the way that charities operate, because they're often, really strapped for resources, and administratively, it's tough. So having that longer lead time on a response or a bid is really ideal. And then finally, so the master solid waste plans, they're obviously a really important planning lever by which many municipalities, they're already using them. And so using those to encourage textile diversion and plan for the future, hopefully laying the groundwork for future policy or even EPR would be the goal. And some of the things that we would love to see here are incorporating reduction targets into strategic plans that are specific and time bound. This really helps it be successful. For example, the Durham region in Ontario has stated that they aim to reduce textiles in garbage by up to 5% over the next 5 years. So they're setting some bounds there by which they can measure their success. Another best practice is to engage with the public to determine satisfaction levels with various collection methods. Get some feedback, see what's working and what's not. And of course, coordinate textile collection in partnership with local charities. I mean, they're already doing it. In particular, multi-residential building collection is a great place to start. I guess I'll pass it on to Tani now to talk about some more of the champions that we saw in this work.
Thank you for that, Charlotte. You really brought about a ton of really good points, and a lot of these resources and more of this is available on our website, so you can dig into that a little bit further. I love this slide because I started putting this slide together and I had so many logos to add in here. I couldn't even fit them all in. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? I want to share with you today, one of the questions you may be asking for your municipality: what is everybody else doing? What's happening across the country? Well, we did a really good landscape scan, and we found tons of people who have municipal programs. And those might just be a small reference to doing textile collections or to full-blown programs, all sizes, shapes, and in between. Charlotte was talking about the municipal solid waste master plans. Niagara Region is working on theirs right now, just had a public consultation, and we were excited to be involved in there and seeing people talk about textile recycling and wanting to be a part of that and seeing it in there. So it's kind of cool to see this start becoming live and moving through various municipalities. Some of the champions that we've talked about do a lot of different things. They could be hosting collection sites, working with charities on co-branded bins. That's a really great initiative we've seen. Waste event days, just doing collections. Sometimes they have their environmental days. We'll talk about Toronto's in a few minutes. And I know Durham Region does that as well as in Vancouver, I believe. Bin licensing that favors charities, really understanding that when they're going to be doing new bin licensing, that they're going to take into account that charities don't have the funds to pay for the monthly fees for bins or whatever that looks like. If you really want to help the community, that's an area that you can support. So we love seeing that there's a number of people who've done that and have great bin licensing models that might be something you want to take a closer look at. And then also, as Charlotte mentioned, RFPs that are exclusive for charities seem to really work well. So I can dig into all of these ones and you'll see some of those logos there. Ones that you may recognize. Markham has always been known, but Niagara Region is new. Leduc is new. Aurelia in the last year or two. Vaughan. There's just been so many of them that I'm just flipping through them that are not all in here either. Municipality of Dysart and all. And yeah. Ajax, Aurora, Newmarket, all kinds of people are getting on the bandwagon. So it's great to see that. If you take a peek at the champions list, you can go and find a comparable sister city or municipality to yours. And that might be a great link for you to see what would work in your community. So we encourage you to do that. We can't show you every model on our call today, but our hope is that we inspire you for you to know that the resources are out there, that you can find something that your community and your municipality would like to engage in. So moving on to the next slide, we are going to focus on 3 that we're going to take a little bit of a peek at here. I'm going to see if I can get my background information. There's a lot of information that we're pulling from here, so apologies if you see my mind or my face jumping screen to screen. But Charlotte's going to pull up. The first one we're going to talk about is the Fundy region. And this is a really great collection event that we've seen happen and spark up in New Brunswick. So this is where donation event where the residents are bringing in their household items and their clothing for donation, and they work with a number of different charity partners. So they work with Habitat Restore, Salvation Army Thrift Store, First Step St. John's, and I see a few other names there as well, and some that are also not necessarily NACTR members, but we love to see that they're really engaging in their local community and making sure that they're participating in these events. And in exchange, some of them are taking away their textiles, some are doing e-waste and other kinds of things, and creating some funds from that to support their local missions. It's just really cool because when you do these types of events, you're really engaging that local community, because all of these charities have members and have people who are living in that community, and they're all directly benefiting from it. So it's just a great synergy to see. They have some neat stuff on their website as well with how they've organized it. I really like the way that it presents itself. So we thought that was a fabulous example to share with you today. The next one I wanted to touch on is the Toronto Community Environment Days. So this is also something where it's limited time. It runs through a number, I think there's like 46 or 47 different site collection events that happen in all different districts. And there's a calendar all across Toronto where they actually have set up, and they're in mostly the same locations year to year. And this is where you can drop off a number of things like hazardous waste and electronics, and of course textiles. And then working with local partners, we're able to be there with our branded trucks. Salvation Army is a big partner for the city of Toronto here, and we're able to collect so many goods there. Saves people from having to go to a landfill or going to other donation drop sites. And it also, when they know that these things are regular, that's where the buy-in is. It takes 2 to 3 years for these things to be really growing to have the largest impact in their local community. And you can see there's even some numbers there of the tons of kilograms that are being collected of all types of goods that are being used in these community events. It's great to see, because the local people in each community, it's a way that they can reach out and work together. We love to see those programs. So it's really cool. And that can be in a big city or in a little city. I would be remiss if I didn't move on to the city of Markham. I mean, I think city of Markham, of course, it has the textile program that most of us are familiar with. They've worked on this since 2016, and they started with a number of initiatives like clear bags at the garbage, a textile ban across the city as well. And I know that they don't do a lot of auditing of that. It's sort of just a cultural understanding, and they find that it works immensely well. They have collection bins, and you can see there's a little collection shed. The majority of them are actually the little bins that you see a little bit smaller there in the screen. Those they're actually branded by the city. The city promotes all of this work. They did a lot of campaigns in the beginning. They don't need to do a lot of campaigns anymore because they're just so widely successful. I think they have 6 or 7 different charitable partners that they work with. So the charitable partners will actually purchase the bins. That's at the cost of the charity, and they put their logos on the bottom of them and work together with the city in the different areas that they're located. What's neat is that a lot of these bins are located at community centers in high public areas. These are not just at your corner store on the curb or at like a plaza or a shopping mall. We find that those ones can be problematic and sometimes can get a lot of dumping or pillaging, but these ones are in really high visual areas that seem to work well. Some of them are transfer stations. Some of them, I think they're even like the fire stations and things like that. That seems to be the recipe that works really well in that city. So if you're considering a donation program that's really going to do something co-branded and be a little bit more aggressive, it certainly is the one to follow, the model that we all love to see as charities. And it's not just working with one charity, it's working with multiple charities, which is a great community benefit as well. All right. So that covers those 3 there. Just trying to get caught up on my slides here. Charlotte, yeah, over to you.
So this one's all about how do we move forward with these recommendations. And what we have uncovered and what we decided to put forward was these following steps. So first, you define your purpose, define your scope, Your purpose will usually be related to your goals that you set out in your strategic plan. And then the scope could be like, will it be a static location? Will it be a recurring event? Will it be a one-time thing? Is it a pilot? Will it be available in multiple locations, or are you just trialing one? Will it be coupled with existing municipal infrastructure? Next, we suggest you engage with NACTR members or charities to partner on reuse and recycling options for donations. So it'll allow for a broad range of reuse, downcycling, and disposal streams, and it will also encourage a wide range of items that can be accepted. So that's really great.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah,
it
that's a
easy for
great.
the
I'm
public.
just gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there, Charlotte. I have to agree too that it's highly likely that your NACTR members are already working vigorously in your communities, and they've got donation collection systems, whether that be bins, which tends to be a little bit smaller, but usually it's on-site donation centers. So they have actually thrift stores, or they have donation centers that are collecting in product from the public. Some of our members are doing household pickups and picking up in certain areas as well. So, to understand the work that they're doing in your local area is important. A great way that you can find that out, I'm just remembering this now and I'm going to interject it. I do mention it a little bit later as well, is that there is a national donation site locator located on our website. You can go to the website, type in your city, and then you'll see all the donation drop-off points or bins or other activity our members have. So you can right away get a glance, see who's active in your community.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, and so then, of course, you'll need to determine location and accessibility requirements. So there might be regulatory requirements for certain goods collected as well, like e-waste, and that should be noted. And then other logistics like dates and times need to be communicated. However you choose to do that, that's what you'll need to figure out. And then figure out the equipment or setup requirements, and of course the budgetary requirements as well. Next, engage the community. So
Mhm.
publicize the event or the new program in all of your channels and through all of your partners, everywhere you possibly can, every connection you have. Make use of any extended networks. If you have access to, local organizations who promote those types of things, make use of that. Get the word out however you can. Communicate exactly what items are accepted and in what condition, just to remove those barriers or that friction, those questions that people are going to have. Try and anticipate the questions that people will have. Consider putting up posters, use community resources like event sites, social media accounts, and do a press release and get some media buzz going around the initiatives. I find the media is really receptive to things like this right
Oh
now, which
yeah,
is really
people
nice.
love this for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
So we can use that to our advantage as well. So, and then finally track everything. Track the tonnage of donations, track attendance, track the number of volunteers. Anything you can do to measure the impact and communicate it to the public. Take photos, create content using those photos after the fact. That'll build on the work that's been done at the start. Um, you know, I learned on very early on with planning any kind of event or program. If you don't take photos, it didn't happen. So take photos.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that, Charlotte. Definitely. So these are some of the steps that you can consider to get started. All of these steps and more steps in more detail, we only have so much time here, are available on the website. So the pages that we're showing you here today, this is actually right from our website. So if you go on to nactr.ca, into the municipal resources, you'll see those tabs there, as well as some frequently asked questions. So if you're needing some leverage to work with some of your peers with on why you need a textile program or why it's beneficial to your municipality, lots of other details. There's lots of nuggets in there that I'm sure that you'll find useful. And that brings me to this getting close to closing here, our additional resources at nactr.ca. We've got other stuff too, not just this about specifically setting up a program and the textile recycling program. We have waste audit guidelines that are being used right across the country. It's starting to become, we're hoping it is going to become the national standard in textile waste audits. We have the donation site locator, which I mentioned earlier, which is a great tool. We're getting like 2,500 hits a month on that. It's just surprisingly, it's been very active. So we even see a few municipalities who are actually putting it on their websites and linking to it, directing people to make sure that they donate to charities. And we love to see them use that as a resource. Another huge resource is the community reuse toolkit. So if you're going down this rabbit hole of textiles, how do you get the community, I don't want to say gaslight, but ignited to do more and to help support your efforts? I mean, we all have limited resources. So when we can trigger the communities around us to do more, there's lots of tools in there sharing those examples, and you can check that out, and also other publications. So please do take advantage of those free resources. Yeah, upcoming events. I want to make sure to add this as well. So I'm not sure where everybody's calling from in today, or maybe watching this webinar in the future, but in a couple of weeks or months, we're going to be presenting at the Recycling Council of Alberta, talking about the work that NACTR is doing and these resources that I've just mentioned. We're also going to be at the RANS waste shop, that's waste workshop in Halifax, Nova Scotia, early November, as well as in Toronto at the Waste and Recycling Expo. So if any of you are going to be there, make sure you come and say hello. Charlotte and I are going to be around, as well as Sarah is going to be doing some of this work from Salvation Army as well. So we're busy, we're keeping busy, and we're spreading the word, and we're hoping that people find these resources useful and help to continue helping charities divert more textiles. So with that, we'll jump over to the Q&A. I'm not sure if we have any questions on the panel. Sarah, do we have anything, any burning questions from anybody?
Nothing has popped up yet, but I do see some hands up. So if people just want to ask questions over audio, I can give them access to that. So I'll just go ahead and send forward.
Thanks. So we've got Laura. Do you want to go on first? I don't know if she can unmute herself. Oh, now I got, yes, hello there.
I don't know if this is necessarily a question, maybe more of a perspective,
Sure.
but you had mentioned a recommendation to reach out directly to NACTR members about opportunities for diversion, and some conversations that we have been having with our procurement folks is for these sorts of initiatives, like we do need to be very cognizant of providing opportunities equally, I suppose, to all charities that would be interested. So we would not be able to approach charities directly. I'm just wondering if maybe you have any ideas for approaches that could work.
Okay, thanks for the question or comment, Laura. Where are you from, may I ask?
York Region.
From York Region. Yeah, it's interesting because it seems to be on a per cases basis with some municipalities that they don't want to show that or look like they're favoring anybody, right? And that's why a lot of them will first gather resources and gather information, then actually initiate an RFP program or a proposal so that it is fair and everybody can quote unquote bid on it rather than just doing a direct partnership. However, we have seen municipalities do that. The city of Markham, you don't actually have to go into an RFP program. You just actually connect with them. They took all of that out, and they, if you are a charity that wants to get involved, then they'll actually just give you some bins based on the size of your charity and whatnot. I know that it can be a barrier as far as procurement processes. I can't really speak, I think, more on that as far as for municipalities. I'm wondering, Charlotte, did you have anything you want to add on that?
No, I would just add that I think, we've mentioned also the recommendation that to allow multiple charities to bid together, for this allow accessibility to the smaller charities. And I think in terms of outreach, maybe it could be as simple as like building a list, and it would include NACTR members, but also, other local charities in the space. And we could certainly help you do that. Because we're looking to get them all to be members eventually anyway, and we want them to still be able to benefit from our knowledge as well. And so like working collaboratively in that way could be something to look into.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. I'm going to go over to, is it Moria Mars?
I think it's Mars.
Mars Moria? MM? I'm not getting any volume there. Muted participant, unmuted participant. Sarah,
Hello,
you want to help
guys.
us
Can you
out?
hear
Oh,
me?
there we go. Hello.
Okay, great. Hi, I just had to join from my phone because my computer is not working, but
Thank you.
yeah,
Could you introduce yourself?
sure. Yeah, my name is Mars. I'm based in so-called Vancouver, and I was working for Sherry's Repair Initiative earlier in the year, and I helped them write the reuse community toolkit. And
Um,
the research we did and the work NACTR does, I really respect it, and it inspired me to get my hands dirty in textile reuse. And so with my roommate, we saved about 2,000 pounds of clothes from going to the landfill over the summer, after my term at Sherry's Repair ended. And now we're working on building tech. So we're building a software that can identify the condition of the clothing from the image, and then create suggestions on how to divert it appropriately, if it should be donated, if it should be resold, or if it should be recycled. I also started working on a map, which so it's really cool to hear that NACTR also has a map on their website. So maybe I will go snoop at yours and integrate it into mine, because this would be information that's going to be on our software too. Um, and I guess my question to you guys is, do charities actually need more stuff? Because Canada
yes,
is
yes, 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 yes.
okay.
Sorry. So did you want to finish the question?
Well, it's just in my research, I've found that Canada is the 10th country in the world with the most reused or like used textile exports. Like we're shipping used clothes away to other countries. And I don't know if you've seen
Mhm,
images of Accra in Ghana, but
mhm.
there's beaches that are just covered in clothes.
Right. So I don't want to get in too much a rabbit hole with that. I do want to break that apart. Thank you so much. It's great to hear about the initiative that you're working on. I think that we do need better textile sorting systems in the future, and it sounds like this is something that yeah, we're excited to hear that sort of thing. So NACTR members are reusers of product inside of here of Canada. And when the question becomes, do we need more donations? The problem is that when we get in the donations, and I'm going to speak in general for all of our thrift members, I can't speak for the haulers necessarily, because some of them are like collecting product and then selling it to other people. But I can speak from the Voice of Salvation Army and the other retailers. About half of the donations that we get in are actually sellable and can go into our stores. And the other half are soiled, are too worn out, or not in fashion, all those kinds of things combined. So we have to set those aside. So the half that we do put in our stores, only about a half of those people want and purchase. And so we end up taking that second half and putting it with the first half. So now we have about 75% of the clothes that we collect that are not resellable. The point is that we are doing our best to give those clothes the best chance at a second life. We're putting them on the racks, we're putting them in our stores. Our markets are not wanting a lot of that product. However, the people coming into our thrift stores, there's hordes of people who want the good quality stuff. We need to get more of that good quality stuff. And then I'll just back it out again, and I hope that this is understandable. I don't want to go too much down the hole. We know that 76% of clothing in Canada is going directly in a landfill. And we are only capturing 24% of it. And that half of it, and half of that isn't even really good. There's a lot of really good quality stuff that's going into our local landfills. Well, that's the stuff that we're trying to capture. That's the stuff that we're trying to get municipalities to send to charities. Let us be the ones who decide what's sellable and not sellable, move it in through our systems, and we're the filters and the sorters. And then, yes, what we can't sell, we may also ultimately have to send some of that to landfill. Our studies show about 5%. And the rest of it, we do sell to other sorters and graders. And those primarily are in Canada. And they, again, try to find markets for those items in Canada and they will actually look and also sell that stuff and export it because it is a global market. There are hundreds of companies that are wanting to buy this product, and it goes to other countries around the world. Again, I don't want to get caught into that rabbit trail because the focus for NACTR is finding the best chance at a second use and life for products for our members here in Canada today. So while we still have such a heavy portion going into our local landfills, we want to mine those and make sure that those aren't happening and moving through. I hope I've kind of explained that well. If somebody has more questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you'd like to have more dialogue on that, I'm sure that we could as well. I'm just going to be mindful of our time. And Mars, thank you for your contribution. Is there anything else you want to add, or can we go to the next question?
No, that's it. I sent
Awesome.
my note on the chat. Thanks.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for that. All right, so I'm going to go over to Connect the Green Jar. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm excited to hear your question or comment.
Hi there. My name is Tanis. I own a shop called The Green Jar in Toronto. We are a package-free refill shop, but we also do a lot of recycling initiatives. And we, over the last 12 months, have collected about 10,000 pounds of unusable textile waste. We were able to partner with other businesses where we were able to match them with textile artists, recyclers that were shredding these materials and putting them into furniture and so on. I was kind of echoing what Mars was saying. I really wanted to understand exactly where the unusable textile waste was going that NACTR has captured. And also, I couldn't find the donation site locator on your website. I was wondering if you could share that in your chats.
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
great questions. So to really understand, I would say that the best resource is to go into the NACTR.ca website and then look under resources, and there's a few papers that are written there. Reduce, Reuse, Rewear, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 is a little less more boring, but Part 2 really dives into what's happening with this product and where is it going. And to be clear, NACTR doesn't collect anything. We're just an association that represents our members. So NACTR doesn't collect clothing, our members do. But in there, you're going to see what the chain of all that product is moving. These initiatives that you and Mars are running are so important for the future innovation of this industry. I can tell you, again, I can throw my Salvation Army hat on, that in one of our 11 warehouses across the country, we're moving anywhere from 2 to 4 tractor trailer loads of unsellable garments per week. And that's just what we're doing. So when we're talking about, where's the innovation, and where there is nothing that is currently scaled. So we need to have these young innovators bringing this stuff forward, because we're trying to create these markets and to make things scalable, because the scale of what we're working at is enormous. So, and then as long as there is market to purchase that product and other outlets for it, we do the best that we can with that product. So I hope that addresses that question that you had there. Did you want to go again there, Tanis? Because I see your hand up again. Do you maybe want to add on to that?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much for the explanation. Is it also true that you, or Salvation Army specifically, will collect unusable textile waste if members of the public market as such?
Yep. We take all textiles.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, and several of the other charities do as well. I don't want to make this a Salvation Army show. If you contact the other charities or the other local organizations, some of them have different parameters on what they accept and they cannot accept, depending on their facilities and their recycling opportunities. So that's something I did wanted to add there. I'm going to put it over to Miriam.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam. I am a waste services prop student here at the County of Dufferin. So I just wanted, someone just brought it up in the chat, which I wanted to talk more about. So Dufferin County is going to host a winter clothing swap with one of its other small municipalities, and I was just wondering what your opinions were on clothing swaps, or if it was better to donate to a thrift store.
So great question from Marion there. She was asking in Dufferin County about clothing swaps, and is it better to do a clothing swap or donate to a thrift store? Girl, you can do both. I'm going to actually kick this over to Charlotte to speak on, because Charlotte is also the owner of the Great Halifax Clothing Swap. And and there's also resources in our community toolkit directly about swaps. But Charlotte, you want to address that one?
Sure. Yeah, I would say you're right, Tawny. You can do both, and you should do both, because the value that you bring to your community by doing a clothing swap. And I was just so thrilled to see that the Great Halliburton Clothing Swap is going to be happening as well. And I wonder where you got that name. But anyway, I think, we see that these hyper local events really help to facilitate the shift towards circular, from linear to circular, that we're really hoping to see, because it gets people together and it helps them see the enormity of the problem right in front of their faces, because it's so impactful to walk in that room and see piles and piles of clothing on tables and know that that's just from the people at that event in that room today. Like,
Yeah.
it sparks conversation, and it gets people speaking with their friends, relatives, and neighbors about consumption, and it sparks change. Light bulbs go on. It's super valuable. So I think by doing that, you're doing something amazing for the community. And then after the event, because it's a fixed time frame, and at the end of the day, you can get someone to come pick it up. NACTR members do that sort of work. Big brothers, big sisters of Greater Halifax always come pick up after my events, and like, they come right to the door, make it super easy. You literally bag it all up and give it to them, and they'll take it away from you so that you don't have to deal with it. And so you're serving your community then in another way. And it's all usually really great quality as well. So
For sure.
it's a win-win. I would say go for it.
Yeah. I have to echo that word too. The more that we can get the community involved in these reuse initiatives, it also sparks people to start to look at thrift as an option. So you get thrift converters. People go to a clothing swap. Wow, I had no idea that people had so much cool stuff. They might now start shopping in thrift, and that's great for the local charities, and that's also great for the environment in our local communities. So, I think that we've really learned, and I think that was one of the premises of NACTR coming together with all the brands that we did, is that we're stronger together. And I think we're all stronger when we work together as a community and support each other and not look at each other like competition. I know that we can be competitive, and that's the nature of business. But at the end of the day, creating a culture of circularity and sharing and moving this stuff around really is a good feeling for everybody. Yeah. I don't see any other hands up there at the moment. And I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but is there anybody else who want to jump up with anything? There's some resources I've seen that dropped in the chat board here if you haven't had a chance to look at those. Hi, John Watson from out there. I see a few other familiar faces. Thank you so much for taking your time here. Oh, I'm going to just kick over. We got a few more questions. Awesome. Iris, you want to go ahead? Iris is looking for her mute.
Yeah, perfect.
There you
Thanks
are.
very much. I'm Iris Moner from Canadian Standards Association, and I'm currently researching ways to transition to the circular economy and looking at textiles specifically. I'm wondering if anyone has had kind of community engagement opportunities where they've had a clothing swap or a drop-off, um, a depot day, and then members of the community want to get involved and say, how can I be part of the solution? Is there a group I can join, a committee? How can I stay connected on this? Wondering if anyone's had that experience and what you might do with them.
I can speak a little bit to that just from my own experience, and that is that it definitely brings like-minded people together, in addition to, well, brings all kinds of people together, but those people do reach out wondering how to get involved. And it's difficult to say how exactly to engage them beyond just the education piece. If you do want to get a committee together, an organizing committee, so that it is easier and more sustainable to make these events happen regularly, and to get more buy-in, and to take it to make it resilient, basically, so that it's not hinged on one key person who plans it. I think that's a really good idea. Tawny, did you have anything to add there?
No, I'm just typing into the chat here. No, I didn't have anything to add. I think that if you haven't already, Iris, the clothing swaps in section in our community toolkit actually speaks and has some more notes about that. You might find that as a good reference as well. And you'll also find some of the larger clothing swaps that we saw that were successful, and perhaps you might have some point people that you can direct those questions directly to there as well. So hopefully you can use that as a resource. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to go over to Shannon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry, sometimes my sound is off a bit. My name's Shannon, and I'm calling from the district of Squamish in BC. I'm just calling because we are doing clothing swaps. We have a big focus on circular economy and zero waste in our community. And recently I've come across this concept of community dye baths. So it's kind of giving real life to clothing, that might be a little bit grungy looking. So, it could be sheets, it could be clothing. And I found an organization in San Francisco that does it. I was just wondering, have you ever heard of any other municipalities doing it? This is a private organization doing it in San Francisco. So I'm just kind of looking at how I could scale it to a smaller community and kind of the ins and outs on that.
No, I've not heard anything about that. I don't know that
Charlotte?
I think Tony froze there. I was wondering if it was just for me, but well, while she's out, I'll just say I haven't heard of this, but I'm going to look into it now that you've mentioned it because I'm very curious. It sounds like a really interesting solution to some of the problems that are out there with end of life clothing. And it seems like Tony must be gone. Are there any more questions from anybody out there? Okay, well, I think we're just about at time.
Yep, we're gonna leave the chat open, so the chat will be open for a little bit longer. Oh, Trevor, yes. Go right ahead, Trevor.
Hi, Trevor. Oh,
Hello there.
oh, there you are.
The San Francisco, they have the Superfund in the state of California, which is where they have a pot of money that is made from the tipping fee and also for cleanup. And that's where a lot of the programs, and I find the state of California light years ahead of us, but that is where that funding source comes from. And they're probably this dying group for textiles probably are funded through that type of process. I'd love to see something like that in Canada. But that's where that comes from. You need funding to get those entrepreneurial initiatives underway, and a federal grant is wonderful.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea for maybe a pilot project. My wheels are turning now as well. I can't wait to read about it after this call. So with that, if there are no other questions, but like Sarah said, you can add your questions to the chat. Mars, the grant, I believe, Trevor, were you speaking of the grant that San Francisco is using, or were you speaking about the environment and climate change?
No, I was speaking about San Francisco, the Superfund.
Oh,
yeah, it is for the state of California.
great. You'll have to Google that, Mars. Well, thanks everyone for being here. It's been lovely chatting with you. Please feel free to reach out to us at any time if you have any more questions or you want to chat. You can reach us at info@nactr.ca. And I hope this was helpful. And as usual, you'll have access to this recording. It'll be sent out to all the registered attendees. And yeah, thank you. It was lovely to be here, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Sorry I dropped off there, but thank you everybody for much appreciate it. Thanks, Charlotte and gang. Have a great day, all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Bye.
Tony, bye.